let's talk about one of my favorite topics in nutrition, which is minerals and mineralogy. And this is such a deep and vast and really dug down rich topic that when I first got into nutrition, I had a very rudimentary, basic, surface level understanding of minerals. What do minerals do? What are minerals? And the deeper down the rabbit hole I went down in this subject, I came to realize some startling realizations about the way the human body is constructed and the way that the transmission device of our brain actually facilitates, like a radio transistor, how it actually channels insights, or what we might call as downloads. You know, when you have an inspired insight, we kind of think that, oh, it's just the brain activating certain neurons or neuropeptides, and that's creating some kind of electrical reaction, the electromagnetic field in the brain, or whatever the scientific explanation for these things are. But the deeper I got down into it, I realized that there's a deeper story going on here, and it really all correlated to the idea of minerals and having the right spectrum of minerals that you need to sustain the human frame and also to sustain neurological and nervous system activity in the body. So let's jump into this. You know, I find it really interesting when we get into nutrition circles and we hyper focus on all these doodads, all these macronutrients, you know, the proteins, the fats, the carbohydrates, vitamins. Are you getting enough of your B vitamins and your vitamin C and your vitamin K and your vitamin K2 and vitamin A and the whole thing? I mean, it just goes down as far as you want to go with it. But what is less discussed is the role that minerals play in the activation of all these other components of nutrition. So, for example, if you take a plant is able to take carbon monoxide from the air, and then through photosynthesis it can convert that into protein and fat and carbohydrate formation and all the assortment of vitamins that that plant needs for vigorous health. But one thing that plants can't do is they can't manufacture their own storehouse of minerals. Plants actually have to dig down their root system as deep as it can go into the soil in order to uptake the mineral concentration that it needs for its health and its construction. Well, human beings are very much the same way. You know, you've heard of essential and non-essential amino acids, right? And the whole protein complex is that there's 9 essential amino acids that we can't actually manufacture under our own volition. We actually have to get that from food. Omega-3 fatty acids is very similar. But for the most part, our bodies can actually manufacture the vast variety of macronutrients that we need for human construction and sustainability. But what we can't manufacture is minerals, right? We have to get minerals from an outside source, typically from our food. And this brings up a whole lot of stuff because we live in a very mineral depleted food supply in our typical food options, even raw food, even organic food. We're still very limited in the vast spectrum of minerals that we can derive from those food options and that are going to be able to absorb properly in the body, and to ensure, like an insurance policy, that we can actually get all the mineral matter that we need for long-term and vigorous vitality, right? So this is why we turn to superfoods, right? Superfoods are basically like your insurance policy for a natural nutrition approach, especially if you're on a raw vegan or vegetarian type of diet. You're gonna be at a disadvantage in terms of what you can allocate mineral-wise from your basic food options. So superfoods are whole food concentrated powders typically, or foods that have been grown in very mineral-rich, mono-rich environments, soil environments that haven't been depleted through the recycling of the soil through agriculture over the last 6,000 to 10,000 years, some people estimate, and so on and so forth, right? That's a surface level observation of the whole mineral nutrition situation, but as we get deeper down the rabbit hole, we start to uncover some interesting discoveries. One of them is that minerals act as tuning forks for human consciousness, right? It's not just for the construction of the human frame, right? Again, that's a very allopathic and scientific, materialistic point of view. It's important, but it doesn't really display the full bandwidth of this conversation. So one of my original mentors, Dr. Gabriel Cousins, used to drive this point, is that if you are going to go on a detoxification lifestyle, you have to make sure that you're not depleting yourself excessively of all the grounding minerals in your body that you need, because what can happen is you can start to experience a healing crisis, right? We call that a Hertzheimer syndrome, and then that's where you're basically depleting all the essential minerals that you need for sustainable health as you're going through that cleansing period. And this is a really important idea, actually, is because as we're going through any kind of lifestyle transformation, as we're going through any kind of revitalization of our health, we want to make sure that we're in a homeostatic balance. We don't want to deplete ourselves too far. One of the interesting things about how the body manages and modulates the mineral aspect of nutrition is that our protein, carbohydrates, fats, and vitamins, to some extent, will actually be cycled out of the body, or they'll be used up a lot quicker than the minerals. But minerals actually get stored in certain tissue regions of the body, glandular and organ regions of the body, a lot longer, because the body actually works in a hierarchy of survival, in a hierarchy of necessity. So this is one of the reasons when somebody is on a standard American diet and they're just completely acidified, they're in a state of acidosis, and they don't really have the full spectrum of nutrition they need. They don't have enough alkaline minerals. They have too many acidic minerals like phosphorus or sulfur from animal-based foods, or even radioactive sulfur, so on and so forth. They don't have the right balance of alkaline-forming minerals or alkaline-forming substances, or enough fiber. Their body will hold on to certain minerals like calcium because they need that calcium to remain in an appropriate pH balance. The word pH, by the way, means potential hydrogen. And hydrogen is not typically classified as a mineral, but it acts as a mineral, similar to oxygen. Hydrogen and oxygen are the two elements that the body requires for cellular metabolism, for oxygenation, so on and so forth. So what ends up happening is that the body will actually, what's the word I'm looking for? The body will actually strip calcium from our spinal column, from the hips, from the bone and skeletal structure and the nerve structure, and it will take that and place it into the bloodstream if the blood has become too acidified. And it does that because it needs to keep the blood in a certain pH balance. Otherwise, we could actually die. If your blood pH gets too acidic, or even too alkaline to a lesser extent, you could actually die. So that's how the body works in its hierarchy of necessity. But let's go back to this mineral subject because it's so fascinating, really.